Okay. Good evening. This is the Christian County Democrat Club of Christian County, and tonight our speaker is Timothy Shepard, Democratic candidate for U.S. Senator from Missouri. I am Bob Rubino. I am the president of the club. For those of you that may not know, Christian County, if you're not from this general area, Christian County is just south of Springfield, the city of Nixa and the city of Ozark. We are actually set in between Springfield and Taney County, which has Branson in it. So a lot of activity down here, a lot of snow down here. Shoveling driveway today, had about 8 inches to move. So having introduced myself, I'm going to ask, okay, Tim, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you so much for reaching out and inviting me this evening.
My pleasure.
It's such a pleasure to meet all of you guys in Christian County, and I'm excited that we all share this passion to flip Missouri in 2022 and to usher in a state of what I like to call Missouri uncompromised. And what I mean by that is that we can't compromise freedom for all people. I don't think that we should compromise valuing hardworking and middle-class families. And really, at the end of the day, we absolutely can't afford to compromise on democracy itself. And so I'm really excited to unpack more of what we believe in this campaign in the months ahead as we set out in this grassroots initiative to restore democracy, reform capitalism, and invest in our future. And so thank you again for having me. I'm Tim Shepard, and I'm not a politician. In fact, I never planned prior to this year that I would be addressing you all tonight as a Missouri citizen whose aim is to represent my neighbors and our fellow Americans in the United States Senate. And so I imagine you are probably asking a question that I get asked a lot, which is, why am I running? And so I like to think that we've all taken note that our country is at a once-in-a-generation crossroads. And I hope that we're all collectively asking ourselves, who do we want to be defined as a society? And when I look around, before I got into this race, there's this amazing movement that's happening of Americans who are frankly fed up with the status quo. And collectively, we're stepping up to this challenge to redefining the meaning of what it means to be an American. And what I'm setting out to do, and what I'm really delighted with my campaign committee and the volunteers, is that we want to see Missouri uncompromised. And I'm privileged, really, to be running on a platform to do just that. So I'm going to share a little bit about me and where I come from, and then touch on the campaign platform and the vision that I think and that the team and I are really excited about. And then I'm going to open it up for some Q&A so that we can get into the meat of what you guys want to talk about and how we can collectively flip this state. So I grew up in Kearney and Excelsior Springs, and you guys might know Excelsior from when President Truman, another famous Missourian, had his inaugural stay in Excelsior at the Elms Hotel. My family roots go back in the state pretty deep. My great-grandparents had a construction business in St. Joseph up in the northern part of the state. And my grandpa on my mom's side grew up on a family farm north by the Iowa border in a town called Gallatin. And my dad's parents retired down in a little tiny blip on the map called Theodosia on the shores of Lake Bull Shoals. And I have some of the most amazing memories from my childhood wandering through the woods down there, just in awe of our state's natural beauty. And so I'm proud of the uncompromised values that I learned from the people of Missouri growing up. Because it's here at home where I really learned how to be an American. And I learned in my high school civics class about the importance of each of us participating in our self-government. And that's where I think as a country, we're going to be able to begin to rediscover trust in each other, trust in our neighbors, and to reestablish trust once again in government and society at large. And so my community showed me the importance of loving our neighbors, and a transformative moment for me. I was overwhelmed when that love was put into action. When my mom was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and the insurance company told my family she wasn't eligible for coverage, but our church community and our town really came around us and helped us get through that time. And Missouri taught me again how to love my neighbors. When my mom founded a food pantry in my hometown, and we were able to unite the interfaith and civic community together to provide food security for families in need right here at home. And just a stone's throw from where I'm joining you tonight here in Kansas City, it's where I discovered one of America's key engines is our shared optimism and resilience in the face of adversity. And it was at a key moment that would shape the trajectory of my career, because I was at a workshop that was led by Diana Kander, and she was teaching a class on entrepreneurship at a Kauffman Foundation community outreach program. And that really impacted the shaping of my career at a pretty hard time in my life. And that's brought me really to where I am right now. And I'm so excited to be working with every single Missourian, and especially you folks in Christian County, to rebuild and to build this grassroots campaign. And I'm really energized by the outstanding campaign committee that we've put together, and the outreach calls that I've been doing with organizers and volunteers from all across our state. We're really working to build a citizen-aligned grassroots campaign that's really going to honorably represent the people of Missouri in the United States Senate. And so with my campaign committee, we like to repeat this prayer every week, which is to do all the good you can for as long as ever you can, in all the places you can, to all the people you can. And if you're familiar with John Wesley, it's a beautiful way of expressing that here in Missouri, and really as Americans and everywhere, we love our neighbors. So my campaign slogan is pretty simple. It's Missouri uncompromised, and our goals are to restore faith in democracy and reform the mechanisms of capitalism so that everyone can prosper, and to invest in our future. I'm really proud this week. We were able to announce a little bit more about the campaign team. And one in particular that I'd like to highlight is Tim Miller. He's a West Point graduate. And after serving in the 101st Airborne Division, he was an aide-de-camp to the Deputy Commanding General of the Ground Forces in Iraq. And he served as the communications director for the Special Operations Task Force Syria. And he's joining my campaign as a special advisor, senior policy advisor for Veterans Affairs. And he's going to really make sure that the policy that we advocate in the Senate is going to take care of our American heroes. And he's going to serve the campaign in the capacity as director of student outreach as well. And I'm really excited about the leadership that he brings to bear in that space as we build out our student outreach program to really get the grassroots initiative built up with the Get Out the Vote operation. We have an outstanding group of other leaders from people who are creating jobs in green energy and reducing greenhouse emissions right here in rural America. I've got some amazing technology advisors who are going to help make sure that we're able to keep big tech in check, and some amazing community and faith leaders who are going to help us restore our democracy. And so in this campaign, what I like on the campaign committee, and as we build out the grassroots effort, is for us to embrace that our future is now, and that we can unlock the vote all across Missouri. I think when we lean into the values that pass in statewide ballot initiative after statewide ballot initiative, and we really need to give permission again as liberals to take control of the narrative away from Republicans and to lean into the fact that we actually have the solutions for the problems that we collectively face. And I think that we'll see voter turnout go up in our urban areas as well as all across rural Missouri when we really lean in to those ideas and values and policies that we know work and that they get excited about. And that's how we're going to be able to build a new coalition of voters that's additive rather than trying to play a game of dividing and picking away. That's kind of the Republicans' game, and they're better at it than us. And so I'm excited for us as Democrats to be really excited again about being Democrats. So with that, I want to make sure that we have time to get into the Q&A, so I'm not going to go too in-depth other than just hitting again in this grassroots citizen-aligned campaign that we're building. We aim to uncompromise Missouri, and that ties into when we became a state, and that we aim to restore democracy, reform capitalism, and invest in our future. And so I'm going to go ahead now and drop in my contact information here because I want to make sure that you can all reach out to me to go in as in-depth as you would like and ask me questions. And then I want to open up the floor for questions to go deeper into policy. So thank you all so much for your time. And with that, Bob, I'll hand it back.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions here for you right now. And this is from John Shaughnessy. What are your strengths that would make you an effective senator? And then he also asked, have you held public office?
Yeah, so I have not held public office, and I think that's actually one of the strengths in my campaign to become a U.S. senator. I think, as I've hit on, I'm fed up, and I think Americans are fed up with the status quo. And we've seen this new Southern strategy emerging where when we lean into what works in Missouri on statewide ballot initiatives and give people permission again to take ownership and be proud of the solutions that we have to fix the problems in front of us, that's really how we're able to, we've seen it in Georgia with Raphael Warnock and Stacey Abrams. Beto in Texas was able to come pretty close and to really unlock and build new coalitions of voters that are additive rather than trying to peel away from Republicans.
Okay. Let's see. Another question. This is from Audrey. Missouri is divided and heavily a red state. How will you work to bring in rural Democrats?
So on the rural Democrats, I think that we have a lot of great areas where we can focus. I think if I'm in the Senate, I'd like to join, the forestry and agriculture committees and be able to get involved in policy around what's going to work for our state. We've seen the impact here in rural Missouri, especially of CAFOs. And we have an example just south of us in Arkansas where CAFOs caused a lot of damage to the local tourism economy, as well as to local farmers. And the state actually had to buy back the land and do all the environmental cleanup to restore one of the strengths of their economy. And I think it's one of the strengths of our economy as well. We've been blessed in Missouri with beautiful, beautiful natural forest, and that's an economic engine for us. And I think that we need to lean into that rather than letting foreign nationals kind of take market share away from our mom and pop farmers, and ensure that we're able to shore up our food supply here at home, rather than big companies.
Okay. Question for me. Who do you see as an example for you as a politician you would like probably to emulate?
That's a really good question. I love, for me, what Stacey Abrams was able to do in Georgia and formulating the new Southern strategy, because the South is very similar demographically to what's happening here in Missouri, and the tension between who we're going to be. Are we going to be a compromised Missouri, like when we became a state, or are we going to lean into our values for that we need freedom for all people? And so Stacey, Raphael Warnock, I think, did an amazing job in Georgia, and I don't think he got enough coverage necessarily relative to what Ossoff was doing, but he's a great model for us to emulate.
Good question came up in regard to the rural areas of the state. What do you see as the divide in the rural parts of the state in regard to political thoughts and opinions? I mean, Christian County is an extremely red county. We have some of the worst politicians. We have the woman who is who they're trying to remove from office right now, Tricia Burgess. They're trying to get her out of office. And then we have Jared Taylor for our state representative here, who's Mr. Gun Nut. And then we have Eric Burleson in the Senate, who is absolutely crazy also over guns. What do you see in your campaign being able to bring together people in the rural areas to help us achieve a winning ticket, a way to improve the state for all of us?
I've been talking to a lot of amazing moms demand action people from all across the state with the gun sense movement, and I think that there's some really great policies on the agenda right now that are supportive of the Second Amendment, but that lean into some common sense around how we need to respect guns and treat them as a society, with a little bit more respect. And I think, there's some voters that we're never going to win over. I've got a childhood friend named Grady Holcomb, and he's adamant about guns, and we've agreed to disagree on that issue. But I've got a lot of other really good friends growing up who politically and ideologically, you would say that we're opposites, but we have a lot in common in the desire to protect each other's freedoms. And I've seen that happen in conversation after conversation with a lot of church friends growing up. And I think that we can start to scale that conversation more broadly.
Okay. I've got a good one here. Another question that came up from one of our guests tonight. What do you think we should be doing with our energy grid? And we are experiencing rolling blackouts here in Southwest Missouri, similar to the rest of the country. Is there a better method to supply our energy needs?
There sure is. I think we need to invest in green energy and new jobs. And America has a really amazing opportunity right now. We have a company called Tesla, who has given us a blueprint for how we can redistribute the energy grid and battery capacity and storing energy so that we can redeploy that to the grid when demand goes up is a huge part of that. And I don't see why Missouri shouldn't be taking a leading role in the world at, building new gigafactories for battery production and really harnessing that technology for how we redistribute the energy grid so that people are able to store it at batteries in their homes. And then when demand spikes in times like we're seeing right now, we can redeploy that energy to the grid and lessen the impact on the direct source of input.
Okay. Question. Missouri is hurting for industry and jobs. What are your plans to bring jobs to Missouri and the Midwest?
I think we have an amazing opportunity. We saw, with the New Deal, we saw a huge amount of federal investment, and with the space program, a huge amount of federal investment in new technology and R&D that really unlocked this amazing engine of job growth and manufacturing here in the United States. And there's a paper, I think it was in the Atlantic or the Economist. There's an economist who's put forward a proposal for a lot more state investment in R&D. And I think whenever we unlock that R&D, that's what powered America to our height, really, in the 20th century, and it's what's going to power us again to our height in the 21st century. And this century is ours for the taking. And there's a lot that we can do in terms of public investment in the R&D, and there's a lot that we need to do also to curtail monopolies and to reinvigorate the economic ecosystem. I think we have a lot of big companies that are paying lobbyists to sort of defend their business turf rather than unlocking innovation and allowing small and medium-sized players entrance into the marketplace, and that we have a lot that we need to do to fix that.
Quick question, the $1.9 billion relief package, COVID package. What's your give and take on that?
Which one, the CARES Act or the most recent one?
The most recent one that they're proposing, the 1.9 billion.
I think they need to hurry up. And in economic terms, what we really need to do is get money into the hands of the people that need it. The bottom quartile of the labor force is seeing a 20% unemployment rate, and the elites are sitting on top of capital that they don't know what to do with. That's best illustrated by Warren Buffett famously says, "Hey, I've got $100 billion in cash and I can't put it to effective use." And so we really need to get capital velocity increased by getting people stimulus checks so that they have money for rent. A lot of people are $5,000 and more behind on rent. And we need to make sure that they're not going to end up, in arrears and dragging the economy down. We need to get that money to them. They put it to immediate use in the economy, which will help out landlords who are hurt, small landlords who are hurting. And I don't know if I think that the question we need to be asking right now is not if we're going too big, but are we going big enough to make sure that we shore up the economy coming out of this crisis?
Okay. I've got two questions here. I want to put them together. Can you tell us a little bit more about your life background, and could you talk about your professional career and experience?
Absolutely. I grew up in Kearney and Excelsior Springs, and when I was ready to become a professional, I decided to study architecture. I went to Boston because there was a great school there that had a work program. So we worked full-time in the industry. That's what attracted me to the program, because it helped me be able to afford living while I was in school. And then I became a missionary in 2009, when the first big economic collapse happened. My job at the architecture firm went away, and I had an opportunity to go abroad and help women have access to the fair trade industry through a missionary endeavor. From there, I came out as LGBTQ. That didn't go over so well in the missionary endeavor, and so they invited me to leave that career. I came back to Missouri, got interested in entrepreneurship, pursued a lot of amazing opportunities through that, and launched my own business, which dissolved when an insurance brokerage that was my main client failed. And so I was back on the drawing board again. I was homeless. And I went to New York City, homeless. You might think I'm crazy. And I put myself on the job market, and I got a really great job, having not finished my degree because I had a whole lot of debt. that I didn't want anymore. And I made it in a large finance company where I got reattached to activism. And it was actually when they moved their headquarters to Tennessee, and I was trying to lobby my employer against the for-profit prison industry, where I had the epiphany of getting into public service. And they didn't think at the time that I was lobbying them that being against the for-profit prison industry was such a good idea. And I disagreed with them vehemently. And, you know, there was a lot that happened. I'll leave some of those details for private conversation, but I'm very proud to say they no longer trade for-profit prisons at all in their $700 billion portfolio. And while my bonus and salary and other things were definitely at risk, I proudly defied those threats, and we achieved quite a lot of success in the outcome of that.
And I would gladly say that I agree with the business about the issue about the for-profit prisons. And I think the Biden administration is trying to do away with all for-profit prisons within the federal system.
I was so excited to see that. At the time that I was lobbying against the industry, the state of California and the state of New York had cut business ties, and JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America refused to lend to them because they have such a horrible track record with human rights, as well as taking care of their employees. For-profit prisons try to cut corners in order to make money. And that means that we have a lot of employees who work in the criminal justice system who are going into very unsafe working conditions and environments. And I'm really happy to see that we're having this conversation in the country, not just around making sure that we don't have as many inmates flowing into the system, but making sure that we're really doing our due diligence to take care of the employees who work in that system as well.
Okay. Here. Okay, I've got one. It's kind of a personal question. Did you live in Boston, and did you ever go to Fenway Park? This is put to me by one of the guests tonight, because you started talking about being up on the East Coast, and he happens to be a big fan of the
Red Sox.
Red Sox. I couldn't think of the team.
Red Sox Nation. It's one of my favorite places in the whole wide world. Right on the Charles River. I actually lived just about 3 blocks from Fenway Park, and the sunsets and the beauty of that city are just magic. I highly recommend everyone go visit.
Well, Mr. Shaughnessy, are you jealous now? He asked the question. Do I have any other questions? Please text me.
I'm very jealous. I sent one on chat.
Okay, I've got it. Did I not?
I sent one too.
Okay, they didn't come to me. I'll tell you what, Judith, go ahead and ask yours.
Oh.
Just unmute. Judith, unmute and ask your question.
Basically, I wanted to know like how you were going to get yourself out there and with the press and get people to know who you are. I mean, Roy Blunt I would love to see him gone, but he's been there a long time, and people just vote for Roy Blunt as they do Billy Long. So how do you, and particularly during COVID, how you're not gonna be able to like go and shake hands, and so how are you going to get yourself out there and on the press? And
without giving too much of my strategy away, part of it is the effort is through endeavors like this, and then one thing that I think we're going to need to do is nationalize the race. And I think that my LGBTQ status is going to be a key part of building a fundraising engine that's going to bring money in to the state of Missouri so that we can actually have the financial firepower to go up against Roy. And it's a little bit of a chicken and egg thing, but with some influencers, I think that we'll be able to grow our social media profile significantly to help turn on that grassroots engine. And I'm really proud to say we want a citizen-aligned democracy. And I've been hearing a lot of people say that we need to take money from, corporate PACs and from non-democratically aligned structures. In my campaign, we're only taking money from citizens and from democratically aligned organizations that have the representation at the local level. And I would challenge my primary challengers to do the same thing. And I think a robust primary is going to be the ticket for how we energize the electorate here in Missouri to be excited and go out and vote. I think that's key. And fundraising at a grassroots level, we've seen, particularly with Georgia, the ability to generate hundreds of millions of dollars to be able to bring into a race through small donations, $5, $10, $25 from millions of people. And I think we have a great plan to do that.
Susan Rubino, why don't you go ahead and unmute?
Well, Tim, you're not going to believe this, but Judith asked almost the same question that I was going to ask. It was just about how are you going to fight Roy Blunt? None of us here like Roy Blunt, but somehow he can get people to vote for him.
Yeah. Well, Roy, he's a creature of the status quo more than anything. And I think we all know that we're not living in actual capitalism right now. We're living in a monopoly sort of crony society. And Roy Blunt is the biggest symbol of that. I think that he's in the pocket of big tobacco and big pharma, and that we have just a whole array of people, and some of them are on my campaign committee, who have much better solutions to the economy, to be able to create jobs. And we need to reform capitalism so that it works again for small and medium-sized businesses. And Roy, he's the antithesis of that. And I have no problem, just like I went up to my employer and they threatened my salary was on the line, and said, we need to be against for-profit prisons. I have no trouble embracing some controversy and exposing Roy for the cronyist that he is, because his policy hasn't panned out well for Missourians and for Main Street here. And I think we can tell that story pretty effectively.
Okay, I've got the last question from you, and from Audrey. How are you a stronger candidate than the potential candidates Lucas Kuntz or declared candidate Scott Sifton, who are both running against Roy Blunt?
So I think that comes into a philosophical difference about how to build a new coalition and have an additive approach to how do we get new voters instead of trying to play the Republican game of peeling away people who are more or less comfortable. And we have a real poverty problem in this state, and a lot of voters that we can turn out whenever we actually give them a voice and make them feel represented. I was talking with the chair of one of the central committees near the Boot Hill, and he told me, we used to be a much more 50-50 turnout place and a Democratic stronghold, and it all changed down there when Democrats, especially in statewide and national races, started ignoring the Boot Hill. And George Bush flew in on his helicopter, and everyone got real excited because they felt heard and represented. And so I'm really excited to be a part of the new grassroots strategy and having meetings like this and the opportunity to get people excited again about democracy and participating in the civic discourse.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time. 30 minutes is up. I am going to go ahead and say that we're going to go on and rest of the meeting. Those, good luck.
Thank you.
Get out there and work hard. It's over a year and a half away for the election, November of 2022. And we do definitely want to see Roy Blunt out of the Senate. Can't say it strong enough. He does not represent.
Well, thank you everyone so much for the time. I dropped my contact information. I'm seeing some more questions come in. So obviously we need money. Feel free to donate and make sure that you help me get that exposure we talked about by sharing all of the social profiles with everyone you know. And do that for all of the candidates who are running. And thank you for your time. I'll take any questions offline to go more in depth.